Hello and welcome to Life of Creation. My name is Chad and I'm the host of this channel. If you like what you've seen so far, please like and subscribe and hit the notification button so that you know when new videos are released. Today we're talking to my friend Justin Bawinkel. He is one of the three brothers who founded the Chicago Celtic punk band Flatfoot 56. He was the drummer, and now he is an engineer in the aerospace and nuclear research industry. So let's hear his story. Hello, welcome to Life of Creation. I'm here with Justin Bawinkel, and he's going to give us a brief history of how he's got to where he is. So, all right,
Hey,
just take it away.
yeah, thanks. Well, as far as like my creative life, I think it started pretty much in high school. As you know, like me and my brothers started playing music. We were homeschooled, which we've talked about a lot just now. but um, yeah, my parents want us to play music. They made it a part of our education to get together, and so we would jam every day, like drums, bass, guitar. All three of us played, and that led us to starting a punk band. Early on in high school in 2000, and we kind of just never quit playing that punk band, and that's how we met you. And we kept going, started traveling a lot, traveled all over the U.S., went to like 22 countries, and put out. I think when I was in the band, I think like 6 records. They're still going. Those guys are still doing it.
Yeah.
I made my exit from that in 2013, so it's a pretty extensive career in playing music. And throughout that time, we did other things as well, but that was our main creative outlet for sure. So we were writing together, we were playing shows, we were going on tours. It was um, pretty hot and heavy for a while. I mean, we were doing like 200 plus shows a year, um, all over, and it was uh, it was awesome. It was a great outlet for uh, our, you know, creativity as well as for me. I loved the banter on stage. Like I loved comedy, and I loved just like going off in between songs or whatever. And that was probably one of my favorite parts. And being with my brothers was rad, and friends like that were in the band. I got married when we were in the band. My wife went with us and toured. Was our road manager. I mean, you know her, like you've met her from that as well. And um, it kind of really shaped our life in a huge way. And then in 2013, I kind of saw the writing on the wall of like me and my wife. We love each other. We love being around each other. We want to start a family. Um, the band is getting more popular, and with every step, down that road, we're kind of like getting farther and farther away from this like eventual having a family and like living kind of a normal life in some ways. And I was found myself kind of like working towards something that I wasn't my end goal,
Right.
personally. Not that it wasn't awesome, like it was a great time, like I loved it. But in 2013, me and my wife finally like kind of made the decision to start making an exit from the band. Um, and I started to pursue some other things that were I felt I had talents and passions for, and that was engineering, which is like whoa, this way, like. um, so we in 2013 we moved to Indianapolis, and I started going to Purdue's campus in Indianapolis for engineering, for mechanical engineering. I was really into aerospace. I was really into aviation. I had previously, when I was a teenager, right out of high school, I had gone and got my aircraft mechanics license, my A&P license, and I began using that license when I moved to Indianapolis. And so I worked as an aircraft mechanic as well as went to school full time for mechanical engineering. And my wife Bitsy, she worked while we were there, and we had a blast, just kind of like being us, in a new place and trying something else new, and I was going back to school. I was 28. So it was definitely like, you know, some people would assume that that time in your life has passed, you know, but we got together, we prayed about it. We're like, hey, we're going to give ourselves 5 years. We're going to take 5 years and we're going to pursue something like at with everything we have. We're going to go towards this and try
Right.
and make it happen and see what we can do. And it was great, like to be together on that. She quit her job. She has a rad job in Chicago. She quit that. We sold pretty much everything we had. I transferred my job. I was working at Delta Airlines throwing bags, and I
Right.
transferred down to Indianapolis, and then got a job as a mechanic there, an aircraft mechanic, and it was it was cool. We just like went down with our station wagon. You know, we had packed everything we had in there, and we just drove around Indianapolis for like 3 days looking for an apartment.
Jeez.
And you know, God dropped us in a great spot. We knew like a couple people there, but no one really. And that was intentional for us for sure. One was is pursuing engineering. Purdue's great. Like that's like, you know, a very well known engineering degree. So I wanted to pursue that, but it was twofold in moving out of Chicago. I love Chicago.
Yeah.
I would never have finished. Like I could never like pursue something for 5 years, like hardcore, and maintain it uh, with the draw of friends and just the normal life that I had there with
Yeah.
family and Bitsy's family and stuff like that. Like it wouldn't have worked out. Like I couldn't have devoted that much time to it. And it was hard. It was super hard. So we made the decision to move away and do it on our own like that. So that was awesome. We during that time we had 2 kids. We bought a house. We were like did everything all at once. We're like,
Right.
okay, we're gonna do like within 2 years. We're like we got my wife got pregnant with our first kid, and that's when I officially was like, hey guys, I'm not coming back.
Right.
I'm not like we toured all the time. Like 200 plus shows a year, 280 max at our like top end. It was like
Right.
there's no way to be the dad I wanted to be with that regimen of shows. So it wasn't my plan to just be like, here's the kid. We'll see you later,
Right.
and
Yeah.
and my brothers were rad. They of course they understood that. They're very understanding of it, but made it official, told them I was done, and I really dove headfirst into engineering, and that kind of came out of my parents speaking into me, like into my life when I was a young man. They were just like, "You have all the hallmarks of engineering. You're like, do you need like I was tearing apart stuff in my room, like rebuilding it or turning it into other things. It'd be like I had this old tape player, this radio, and I like tore it apart, took out the electric motors and attached them to this diecast car, and like you know packed it with 9 volts and then like run it down the hallway, stuff like that. I was just like, what? This is like my parents like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I don't know. I didn't listen to tapes anymore, so built this, stuff like that. And I was always doing kind of wild stuff like that, like a weed whacker motor to a skateboard, and was like, you know, flip myself on my butt quite a bit. Like I'm just like making goofy stuff.
Yeah.
Um, I was like getting into motorcycles and anything that had like engines and obviously like kind of aviation I really enjoyed, but it's a little bit out of reach for a middle class kid in the Midwest. It's like it's not really like I could do a whole lot of that, but I still really enjoyed like anything that had wheels or motors or anything. I was into it. So yeah, they acknowledged that early on, and so when me and Bitsy were like kind of praying about or and discussing making the exit from the band, like my two passions in life were like comedy and engineering. Besides, like I played music, it was great, but
Right.
those were like the things I wanted to do, like personally. And so we really did consider. We're like, do we? Should I enroll in Second City, which is a comedy school in Chicago? Do I like? Should I do this, or should I enroll in Purdue? And she's like, and we were like, one of these, my engineering brain would not allow me to pursue comedy.
Yeah.
Like one of these is not economically sound.
Right.
I was like, this is not really, and I would be touring again.
Right.
And
Yeah.
while I loved comedy, there was definitely kind of a time limit on when I could go back to school for engineering and like make it through.
Right.
And comedy is like, well, hey, if all this falls apart and it doesn't work out, I could go to comedy or something. But
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
um, not that I'll be any good at that either. But I just liked it. It's just a passion. So.
Your
And
jokes are pretty funny behind the drum set.
well, I had a big drum set in front of me and a whole group of guys, right? It was like, tomatoes don't hit you back there. But yeah, no, I enjoyed that so much. But ultimately, I was like, my goal is to be a dad and raise a family and have that role in their life. I think that's a way safer bet to go into engineering. So, anyway, yeah. Long story short, I guess I finished my engineering degree. I was working for a company in Indianapolis that rebuilt aircraft into these mega luxury VIP planes.
Hmm.
So they had like master bedrooms, they had workout rooms, they had you know 3 showers, a bar, crew rest areas. I mean, like beyond decadent. It was awesome. Like they were very cool. And the smallest one we would do is like a 737. So take that configuration, and they slam you into like Southwest Airlines or Delta, slam you into
Right.
these 737s and they fit 150 people or so. And we turn that into a fancy RV, for the mega wealthy. So
Right.
um, that was a cool job. It was very, very different and I enjoyed it. But I got an opportunity to come out here with a job, Blue Origin, which is a company that Jeff Bezos owns, and they build rockets. And they saw that I had an engineering degree and an aircraft mechanics license, so they picked me up to come work on their New Glenn rocket, which is an orbital launch vehicle that's based in Cape Canaveral. So it launches out of Cape Canaveral, Florida. And I joined their team during the development stage of that rocket and started working on the tanks team, which is the fuel tanks, not yeah, which is the entire structure of a rocket. It's like everything you see holds fuel basically. So, um, but yeah, so I did that for 5 years, and I was traveling back and forth to Florida, taking my family with me when I could, and we were having a blast. We moved out to Seattle for that job, and so I traveled from Seattle to Florida,
Jeez. It
and
can't be much further apart.
yeah, it's pretty. It was amazing. Like, there's so many differences between the two places.
Yeah.
It's like culture, politics,
Yeah. Everything.
geographic location. It was just like
Weather.
weather. It was like it came up a lot. It was actually very difficult to work together with uh, get them along. And so like I kind of came from the Midwest with a pretty centric minded person and I was kind of like a bridge builder between those two teams that couldn't get along. So they they did great. I mean, they're awesome, but there a lot of bickering between the two camps.
Right.
Florida would be like, "You guys never show up on time. We're working here for hours before you guys log on." I'm like, "Yeah, that's a time change."
Right.
And then the vice versa, you go the same way. But anyway, so I started doing rocket engineering, and it was awesome. It was like drinking from a fire hose when it came to like understanding high end engineering development, and it was awesome. Like it was so much fun. We'd go down. I'd bring my family as much as I could, but I was in Florida a lot, so I started traveling again, like
Right.
a lot, and spend like 100 days or so, like in Florida a year. We were, in the thick of development on this vehicle, so everything was happening for the first time, and it was super fun to be like in that early stage of building something that big and that like high budget and very technical. A lot of development and testing, and then like trial and error on trying to get things to work out. And you'd get a section. I had a section of the rocket called the strakes, and then I would have to build out the entire. method of manufacture. So um, all the tools, where we built it, I designed a bunch of tooling to build it, get the teams spooled up on how to do it, and then take all this new hardware and tooling and go and test it for the first time and be like, write all the instructions on how to do it, and then prove it out and be like, okay, here, I did this. I installed all this stuff. I built this piece of the rocket the first time, and I want you guys to duplicate what I did, and then train them how to do it. So it's like
Right.
really fun. Like I enjoyed it a lot. I started doing that in 2019. Sorry, my not very sequential in my storytelling here.
It's all
So in
good.
2019, we moved out here to pursue that job at Blue Origin. The kids were really young. They're like 1.5 and 3. So they pretty much only know it out here. They remember maybe Indiana a little bit, but moved just south of Seattle and started working, in the office and stuff like that. And COVID obviously shut everything down March of 2020.
Right.
And 2 weeks later, it was 2024 or 23 or something, and we are
Right.
still like I was working from home and also working from Florida, if that makes sense.
Right.
So I'd come home and I'd work because we had COVID in Washington, and then we go to Florida and they didn't have COVID down there apparently. So it's like go work in the office in Florida, but I'd still travel a lot for that, and then and work down there. But it was kind of great to be in my kid's life at that time. And, they were homeschooled because schools were closed down as well. We lived like right on a bike path in Kent, Washington. And so we'd be like, I get off work as early as I could, and they would finish their school with my wife, and then we'd jump on bikes and go ride down the bike path and go
Oh, that's
explore and stuff
awesome.
like that. So, we would set up, we called it Camp COVID, and we like had this tents and hammocks and just like massive bin of toys like outside of our apartment, just like on the front lawn area. We put in a rope swing, and all the neighborhood kids would come because they're all home too. They like couldn't go anywhere, so they would
Right.
just like, hang out outside and like swing on the swings and like do all this fun stuff. And then I'd tear it all down every night because it wasn't our property. Put
Right.
it back up the next day. Tried to make the best out of it for sure,
Right.
the best of it. But well, about a year ago, I left Blue Origin and I went to a small nuclear research company that was doing fusion research.
Okay.
So I currently work there, and again, it's awesome. Like it's a small startup feel. There's about 50 people that work there. It's not very big compared to the 10,000 that I was working, in at
Yeah.
Blue Origin. It's a again, I threw myself back into the new guy shoes and started drinking from the fire hose again on particle physics and nuclear uh, nuclear physics and everything. I was just like, oh man, what am I doing? So I'm working as a test infrastructure engineer. So I build out test cells and I build tooling and equipment used for running these tests safely, and so we don't irradiate each other and and keep people from getting zapped by like thousands of volts. But it's been challenging and it's been awesome. So one of the reasons I did leave Blue, even though it was like kind of a dream job, is it got bigger and I was very busy at Blue. I had a lot on my plate, and I was like, man, I can do these things and I'll do them to my best, but I can't keep up this pace. I need, some of this decompressed or taken off my scope. And so they took the things that I like doing, you know, they're like, okay, there's a tooling group now. They're going to build the tool. They're going to design and build the
Right.
tooling. And then this other group's going to design and build that. And the testing will take care of that. And you kind of just like babysit the project in a way. And I was like, oh, well, I mean, it's still cool. But
Right.
this opportunity came up and they were like, hey, I hope you're okay. Like, we need you to plan, design, build, maintain. Like, basically, you gotta wear every hat because there's only, like, one of you, you know?
Right.
So, um, and that seemed cool, you know? It's kinda daunting, but that seemed like a really fun opportunity, so that's where I'm at now. It's a great job, like, it's super fun. There's not the same sexiness about it where it comes like, "What do you do?" "Oh, yeah, I build rockets," and everyone's like, "Yeah, awesome," and everyone's like, "What do you do?" I'm like, "Well, I'm working on a test, microfusion reactor," and they're like, "Ah, I have no further questions, please." You know? It's cool for some people, but yeah, for the layman, generally, they're like, "Nah, but you're a nerd." But
I
it's
would
super
think that too, yes.
yeah.
You were out in California recently for the new job, right? Or not
Yeah.
recently, but it was a few months ago, I think,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, a little bit, end of last summer, I think, so yeah, I went to San Francisco called Deep Tech Week, and our company rented a DeLorean, and it was a Deep Tech Week is a described as a, well, it's like a giga rave mixed with all these emerging technology companies that were doing some cool stuff in different fields. And we all met on the USS Hornet, which is an aircraft carrier
Okay.
in San Francisco. And so it all took place inside of an aircraft carrier or on an aircraft carrier. And so we rented a DeLorean, kind of like our publicity thing, and we put a mock-up of our reactor on the back of the DeLorean, like in place of the Mr. Fusion device. And so I helped another guy build the mock-up and design like an interface to attach it to a DeLorean that I've never seen in real life. And so I went with to attach it to this guy's DeLorean, which is like, a $200,000 show car or whatever. And I'm like, "You're cool with me, taking parts off this, right?"
Right.
He's like, "Yeah,
And
go for it." Guy was super
and
cool.
putting something that doesn't belong there on it.
Yeah, right. He thought it was rad. He had a blast. He's like and we're like,
That's
"Oh,
cool.
by the way, we're gonna crane this onto an aircraft carrier. You cool with that?" And he's like, "I guess so." Super fun, but
Well, apparently the mall that all of that was shot at is next to my work, the parking
oh,
lot.
really?
Yeah, Puente
Cool.
Hills Mall. That's what the internet says anyway.
Oh, good. Well, the internet can't be wrong, so
Mm-mm. It's always correct. Well, it sounds like that's a very busy job. Do you do any music still?
So, I do, I actually right before this, I just came from my church. I play drums for my church, and I do that about twice a month. So greatly reduced
Yeah,
playing. I also try to teach my kids drums. I say try to now. Before we had it as part of their school that they had to
right.
do an instrument, which is what I had, and drums were like our entry level. All right, we're gonna start with drums because I can teach you that. And I had like bought an electric drum set, and it's in the basement. We just like
Right.
jam out, and they both latched on real quick because kids are awesome at learning, much better than us adults. And now they're like, I don't like drums. It's not cool. I'm like, what do you mean? You get to hit stuff. Like you are, it is cool. I'm like, come on.
The
um,
drummer's like always the missing ingredient to any band I try
yeah,
and start. It's like,
yeah,
great, I got a guitar player, vocalist, bassist, lead
yeah.
guitar player. Anyone know a drummer? No.
Yeah. Anyone here wanna go out and buy the most expensive, heaviest, largest
Right.
piece of equipment, uh,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
devote a
Or
whole room to your house to it?
right. Piss off neighbors.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's like even the drummer you do know is probably in 5 bands
Yeah. Oh,
because
for sure.
they're already the only one there. So
Yeah. Oh, I think, Kyle kept starting bands,
yeah,
and then I would eventually, like, start playing drums for him until he found another drummer or something like that. So I was, like, in a lot of iterations of his bands,
right.
or filling in for drummers or whatever, but, yeah, I think I tell him all the time, I'm like, "Look, if you wanna play music and you learn the drums, you will have a gig, like, somebody
Yeah,
they'll come find you," you know?
yeah.
So,
People sniff out drummers pretty easily.
yeah. So I'm doing that and teaching them. My drums currently are set up at work. We have this like speakeasy that we call it, and it's like this attic space. And there's a bunch of guys I work with that all play music, and
That's
they're
cool.
very talented. And so my drums are set up there, and we will jam out like on Fridays sometime. We'll just like go up there, after
That's
work.
cool.
We'll just goof off.
I talk to mostly creatives or artists, and we
Mhm.
kind of always, talk down about accountants and stuff who just you're like, oh, they just work with numbers, They
Yeah.
but it's we never think they're creative, but it's only because we don't know how to do numbers as well as them, so we're just jealous. But it's cool to see, and I always mention, I'm like, they probably go home and do some really cool artistic, creative stuff because
Oh yeah.
that's just maybe how their mind works. They know numbers, they can do it,
Yeah.
but then they have this passion outside of it that feeds into it.
Yeah. We have a material scientist who's got his doctorates in material sciences, and he's a great blues guitarist. He's got like 4 or 5 guitars. Just
Right.
like at work, he's got 3, I think, and he's just like, "Justin, let's jam, let's go." He's
I
like,
love it.
he's great. Our IT guy is like an awesome bass player, like super good. A few others as well are just like, okay, cool, this is rad. I thought you were just a total mega nerd, and it turns out you're doing this stuff too. So
Yeah. Did you find that you fell into engineering well? Because I would imagine, you're keeping counts and multiple different counts going on in your head as you play a song, right?
yeah,
Do you think that kind
yeah.
of is why you were good at drums and engineering because your mind already kind of worked in numbers?
I'm sure it didn't hurt, and I think playing drums or any instrument at that is healthy for the mind and just like stretching you and causing you to keep track of multiple things at once. I think that's always good for you. Specifically going into engineering, it could have, I'm not sure, but
Right.
it is very mathematical. And there's some parallels there for sure. To me, I'm very mechanically minded, and the drums seem to be very simple mechanics, and I
Right.
think that also maybe drove some of that as
Right.
well. I do think my engineering mindset kind of went dormant during the band. Like I had it when I was really young,
Right.
and I pursued, like, I mean, I had like motorcycles and stuff like that that was tearing apart. I had that like when I got older and was playing music, but building bicycles and like tearing apart stuff all the time. That was my childhood. I was
Right.
always making or building stuff, or trying to at least. And and then when I started playing heavy in the band, that got pushed to my off time, which was not very much. My role in the band was, you have your musical role, and then you have like your keep the train moving role,
Right.
like your business role, and it was
Right.
like maintaining the vehicle, like
Right.
like doing all the maintenance on the van, um, doing like fixing equipment, soldering stuff on guitars, it's like that was my role as well. So
Right.
that like helped, scratch that itch for me when it came to those two kind of like divergent paths of what I like to do.
Right.
Um, and it was great because you get a little bit like, in the trenches when it comes to like fixes. You're like, okay, I don't have much. We got to play tonight. How are we going to fix a bagpipe? It's like,
Right. Yeah.
it's like, okay, Home Depot. What do we got? You walk through the aisles looking for shapes and
Right.
materials, and you're like, I could take that. I could heat it up. I could, stretch it out. And it's like all of a sudden you're like MacGyvering a fix for a mandolin or a bagpipe or a
Right.
guitar. Obviously the common instruments you can hit up, someplace that's
Right.
normal, but other stuff it's like, is there a bagpipe store in Omaha open at midnight? No, probably not.
It's just funny because I'm thinking about another good friend of mine who drummed in one or two of my bands. Really
Hmm.
good drummer as well, and he's now a math teacher in a
Sure.
college university. Like he get went and got his doctorate in math, and there's a point where he didn't see a number for like 4 years because it's all theory and all this
Yeah.
kind of stuff. I'm like, there must be something about drummers, the way your
Maybe.
mind works. It's just
Could
you
be.
you see the world differently.
Yep. We see everyone in the band's backside. It's very different.
Yes, that is true. I kind of want to end it on that because it was you were talking about ends. Um,
There you go. You could do some witchcraft here with the editing, and that'll be the end.